Is our domestic energy system fundamentally and structurally broken? New projections today showed average household energy bills hitting £4,300 early next year, almost 4 times the level of last year. That's simply unaffordable for those on lower incomes. It's not a case of won't pay, but can't pay for millions of families. And the 2 Tory leadership candidates are under pressure to outline now how they would get money to those households to allow them to meet those bills. The government's approach in this crisis so far has largely been to give households money to cope with the shock, and there's pressure on politicians to do much more. Yet, is there a better way? The Liberal Democrats argue the government, rather than letting bills shoot up in this way, should simply intervene to freeze domestic fuel bills at their current level of £1,971. Absorbing the higher wholesale cost of supplier companies buying the energy into the government's balance sheet. In other words, to impose a real domestic price cap. It's an approach some nations have taken. The French government, at the outset of the crisis last year, simply capped the annual rise in domestic energy bills at just 4%. It was able to do this easily because EDF, which provides most of the nation's energy, is state-owned. So is this model of hard price caps and perhaps national ownership of suppliers better than the decentralised and market system in the UK? It's something the trade unions have called for, and polls show it's long been popular with the public. It might help in an emergency, but experts warn there are drawbacks too from the state-owned model in the longer term.
The challenge, of course, with nationalising a company is that it makes it much harder to get private capital in the future. And if you look at France's nuclear fleet, they're going to need that private capital. And fundamentally, what they have done by using the nationalised company to cap the price is equivalent to using taxpayers' money to cap the price. It's just a different way of organising it.
Right now, it's clear that the energy system we have isn't working. The structure is failing. Yet, hopefully, we're in the midst of a once-in-a-generation emergency. Presume that prices do at some stage return to more historically normal levels. We need a system then that's equitable, efficient and sustainable too. Experts say that in normal times, the system should be designed to encourage households to conserve energy, especially given the pressing need to decarbonise our homes. And the problem with price caps, especially blanket ones affecting all households, rich and poor, is that they interfere with those actually quite useful market signals.
Gas prices are being talked about around the dinner table, around work meetings. Everyone is talking about energy bills. So if this isn't the moment where we start to think about how we can bring them down in the long term, there are serious questions about that.
Experts say a sounder structural change than nationalisation or price caps would be for the government and regulators to decouple the price households pay for ruinously expensive gas from now much cheaper energy from wind turbines and other renewables.
At the moment, gas still sets the price for electricity generation, even though we know that new renewables are 4 times cheaper than gas. So that really doesn't make any sense. It will take, a significant period of time. It's not an overnight fix, but in the longer term, it is something that the government can do, and they can act on that to make sure that in the future, we're not subject to sort of the whims of people like Putin.
This is where there's lots of scope for reducing costs in the real world, rather than just artificially by moving them throughout the system.
If this is right, the structural repair job the UK domestic energy supply system needs might be one that has so far received scant attention from either the public or policymakers.